Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to unpack the hidden forces that shape nearly everything you do. We're talking about the structures of automatic behavior, the habits that can control your day, your work, and even your biggest life goals.
Exactly. And our source for this is Charles Duhigg's really influential book, The Power of Habit. Our mission here is to give you a shortcut, really, to get you the core ideas, the mechanics, and the practical tools without you having to sift through all the research.
Right. So we're tackling that big question. Why do we do what we do? And the promise here is, it's huge. Just think about the story the book opens with Lisa Allen. She was in a really tough spot. Overweight, a heavy smoker, just went through a divorce, in debt. And she decides to focus on just one thing.
Just one thing, quitting smoking. That was it.
And that one change.
Yeah.
It didn't just stop there, did it?
Not at all. It started this incredible cascade. She lost 60 pounds. She started running. Eventually, she runs a marathon, goes back to school, gets a master's degree, even buys a home. And it all stemmed from mastering that one single habit.
That's the aha moment, isn't it? The whole idea that we're not just creatures of choice, making conscious decisions all day. We're actually defined by these unconscious patterns.
And the key insight, the real power of this book, is that once you understand the science behind it, you get the tools to control those habits. They're not obstacles. They're just formulas. And formulas can be reprogrammed.
Okay, so let's get into that science. Let's unpack the mechanics. Neurologically, what is a habit? Where does it even live in the brain?
Well, it lives in a really ancient part of the brain called the basal ganglia. It's deep in there. And it's basically the brain's storage unit for patterns. What's amazing is that once a pattern is stored, the basal ganglia can run the show, even while the more evolved parts of your brain, the parts for conscious thought, pretty much go to sleep.
So it's like our brains are going on autopilot to save energy. The book has that great example with the rats in the maze, right? At first, their brains are firing on all cylinders, trying to find the chocolate.
Exactly, a ton of mental activity. But once they learn the route run, straight, turn left, get reward, their brain activity just plummets. The conscious effort vanishes. It becomes automatic.
And that's why it's so hard to change a bad habit. You're trying to use conscious effort to fight something that your brain has made incredibly efficient.
Yes, and that efficiency is built around something Duhigg calls the habit loop. It's a simple, three-part neurological foundation for every single habit you have, good or bad.
Okay, so what are the parts? The first one is the trigger, right? The cue.
The cue. It's the signal that tells your brain, okay, time to go into automatic mode. It could be a time of day, a place, an emotion, anything, really.
And after the cue comes the routine. That's the behavior itself.
The physical, mental, or emotional action you take without really thinking about it.
And then the most important part that locks it all in, the reward. This is the satisfaction your brain gets, the little hit of pleasure that tells it, hey, this loop is worth remembering for the future.
And we can see this loop being engineered in the real world. The story of toothbrushing is just a perfect case study. Before World War I, almost nobody in America brushed their teeth.
It's hard to even imagine. And the ad man, Claude Hopkins, he didn't sell people on dental health. That wasn't the angle. He engineered a perfect habit loop for Pepsodent toothpaste. He found the simple cue, that film you feel on your teeth.
A film that's totally natural and harmless, by the way. But it's a great cue. And for the reward, he gave people something they could feel instantly. That tingling, foamy, minty sensation. That feeling has no actual cleaning benefit, but it gave the brain a really clear signal that something good had just happened. And Pepsodent became a massive bestseller.
Wow. And the big insight there, the reason change is so difficult, is that habits never really go away. They're always just dormant in the basal ganglia, waiting for that old cue, so you can't delete them.
You can't. The whole challenge is learning how to override them. You have to consciously insert a new routine into that old, powerful loop.
Okay, that brings us to the real driving force. If the loop is the engine, what's the fuel? What actually powers the whole thing?
It's the craving. It's that intense anticipation, that expectation of the reward. That's what really locks the habit in place.
The book talks about Julio the monkey, right? His brain activity was tracked. At first, his brain lit up when he got the reward, the blackberry juice.
Right. But as the habit formed, something shifted. His brain activity started to spike the moment he saw the cue on the screen. That spike is the craving. His brain was already anticipating the pleasure of the reward.
So we're not just chasing the reward itself, we're chasing the feeling of anticipating the reward. The buzz of your phone isn't about the email, it's about the craving for that little hit of distraction.
Precisely. And companies that get this, they succeed. Look at Febreze. It was a total failure at first. It was marketed to eliminate bad smells, so the Q was a bad smell. But the problem is people get used to the bad smells in their own homes.
Right, you go nose blind. The cue wasn't working.
It wasn't. The breakthrough came when they realized nobody craves the absence of a smell. What people do crave is a pleasant scent as a signal of completion, a feeling of, I'm done cleaning. So they changed the marketing. The cue became finishing your cleaning routine, and the reward was that fresh, clean scent. Sales exploded to over $1 billion.
Which leads us directly to the golden rule of habit change.
Yeah.
So powerful. You keep the old cue, you keep the old reward, but you insert a new routine. You hijack the old pathway.
And that's the core strategy behind things like Alcoholics Anonymous. AA helps people identify their cues, stress, loneliness, boredom, and the real rewards they're seeking.
Which usually isn't the alcohol itself, but escape or companionship.
Exactly. The new routine, going to a meeting, calling a sponsor, delivers that same emotional reward, but without the drink. It satisfies the same underlying craving.
It even works for small things, like the nail biter, Mandy. She figured out her cue was a little tension in her fingertips. The reward was physical stimulation, so she just substituted a new routine. She'd grip a pencil or tap her knuckles to get that same physical reward, overriding the urge to bite.
It proves that the brain can be deliberately retrained. And that brings us to an even bigger idea. Keystone habits. These aren't just any old habits. These are specific routines that, when you change them, set off a massive chain reaction of other positive changes.
Like Lisa Allen quitting smoking. That was her keystone. It gave her the confidence and the structure to change her diet, her exercise, her finances, everything.
We see it in organizations, too. When Paul O'Neill took over Alcoa, he ignored all the advice about cutting costs. He focused on one thing, and one thing only.
Worker safety, which sounds, completely unrelated to profits.
It does, but he created a habit loop around it. The cue was an injury. The routine was that the unit president had to produce a full report and prevention plan within 24 hours. And the reward wasn't just safety, it was promotion, respect. The people who embraced this system got ahead.
And the fascinating result was that to report an injury that fast, managers had to understand their processes inside and out. They had to communicate better. So by obsessing over that one keystone habit of safety, efficiency, and quality, and yes, profits all shot through the roof.
So we have the loop, we have keystone habits, but to sustain any of this, you need self-discipline. Willpower. But the research here is pretty stark. Willpower isn't, some infinite moral virtue. It's a muscle, and it gets tired.
Right, the cookie experiment, it's a classic. You have two groups of students. One has to resist fresh-baked cookies. The other just has to resist radishes. The cookie group used up all their willpower just saying no to the cookies.
They did. So when they were given a difficult puzzle afterwards, they gave up way faster. Their willpower muscle was fatigued.
So you can't just rely on grit, especially when you're stressed or tired.
No, you can't. The solution is to turn willpower into a habit itself. You have to plan for those moments of weakness, what the book calls inflection points.
This is where implementation intentions come in. It's basically making an if-then plan for your failure points, like the hip surgery patients in Scotland. The ones who wrote down a specific plan like, when I stand up, I will immediately take the first step, they recovered almost twice as fast.
They preloaded the routine. They didn't have to make a painful decision in the moment. The decision was already made. It became automatic.
And huge companies do this. Starbucks has the LATTE method for dealing with angry customers. Listen, acknowledge, take action, thank, explain.
It's a willpower habit loop. The cue is the angry customer. Instead of a chaotic emotional reaction, the employee has a pre-planned automatic routine to follow. The reward is successfully de-escalating the situation and feeling competent. They're essentially installing self-discipline as a habit.
Now, if we zoom out from the individual, habits also shape entire societies. Social movements spread through these pathways.
That's right. The Montgomery bus boycott, for instance, started with strong ties. Rosa Parks' close friends, her church, they provided the initial fire and commitment.
But for it to become a massive movement, it needed something else.
It needed weak ties, the social pressure among acquaintances and the broader community. Eventually, the social habit of participating became so strong that people felt, that it was impossible not to join in.
Which brings us to the final and maybe most important ingredient for making change stick. What is it that helps people maintain a new habit, like sobriety, when they face a huge crisis?
The ultimate catalyst is belief. The studies of AA members found that when massive stress hit, the ones who were most likely to stay sober were those who had developed a deep belief a belief in a higher power, or even just a belief in the community itself. That community provides the faith that change is possible right when your personal willpower is at its lowest point.
So when you put this all together, what does it mean for you, the person listening? The book's final message is one of responsibility. While you might not be responsible for how a habit started, you are responsible for understanding it and for reprogramming it. The map is there.
The change is absolutely available, but it does require some work, some honest self-diagnosis. You have to be a bit of a detective about your own behaviors.
So let's lay out the actionable plan, the 4 steps to actually changing a habit. First, just identify the routine. Be really specific. What's the exact behavior you want to change?
Second, and this is crucial, experiment with rewards. You have to figure out what craving you're actually trying to satisfy. When you get the urge for a cookie at 3 p.m., try something else. Go for a 5-minute walk, chat with a coworker, then wait 15 minutes and see if you still want the cookie. You might find out you weren't craving sugar, you were craving a distraction.
That's a great point. Then third, you have to isolate the cue. The trigger for the routine is usually very specific, so every time the urge hits, just jot down the answers to 5 things. Where are you? What time is it? What's your emotional state? Who else is around? And what action did you just finish? Do that a few times, and a pattern will emerge. You'll find your trigger.
And finally, step 4, create a plan. Write down your implementation intention. When I encounter my CUE, I will perform my new routine to get the reward I'm actually craving. That plan is what saves you from having to rely on tired willpower.
I think the most powerful insight of all is that by understanding this simple loop cue routine reward, you gain the ability to be proactive. You don't have to just hope for change. You can actually design it. And that applies to your personal health, your career, everything.
So we'd encourage you to look at your own habits with a sense of curiosity,